Hello everyone, welcome to my video lecture series on microcontrollers and embedded systems. Today we will discuss on core of an embedded systems. The learning outcome of this section will be students will be able to demonstrate a core of an embedded systems and its supporting components. So let us go in depth. Core of an embedded systems. An embedded systems are domain specific and application specific that built around a core. So basically these domain specific or application specific embedded systems are having some of the processors, some of the cores inside it. So those built around the cores are, first one is a general purpose or domain specific processors. That is a microprocessor. The core of an embedded system may be a microprocessor, a microcontroller, or a digital signal processor. The second main point is application specific integrated circuits, ASIC. This is also a kind of processor which can be a core of an embedded system, which is a main brain or a heart of an embedded system. A programmable logic controllers, PLDs, and a commercial off the shelf trade components, COTS. These are some of the components used in the core of embedded systems, as a core of embedded systems. So we'll go one by one. First, a general purpose and a domain specific processor. Which are a general purpose and which are a general specific domain specific or application specific processors? So here we'll go for the first one, a general purpose. A microprocessor. It is a silicon chip having an ALU unit, a control unit, and a register sets, and it is a dependent unit. The microprocessor is a dependent unit that requires a combination of hardware like memory, timers, interrupts, IO ports, etc. So these are used as a general purpose application. The processors are used as a general purpose application areas and consists of complex processing units. If you go for a microprocessor, the first microprocessor was in 1971 developed by Intel, and that was a 4004. A 4004 was the first microprocessor built with 4-bit ALU that was having 1 kilo of RAM size, 4 kilobytes of ROM size, and it was having a 4-bit 16 registers. So this 4004 was built with 46 instructions and which was operating on 740 kilohertz clock speed. So basically this 4004 was designed for calculators. The same 4004 was upgraded to a 4040 microprocessor with 8 kilobytes of ROM. But the second microprocessor is developed in 1972 by the same Intel and called as 8008, which was similar to 4040. That is, it was included with 8K ROM and it was having a 14-bit PC program counter. The third microprocessor was on 1974, which was 8080, which was an 8-bit microprocessor with a 16-bit size of each registers. So basically this 8-bit microprocessor 8080 was used for an industrial controls. Then later on it goes on growing with the processor speeds, processor execution bits, and many number of registers with address bus. The fourth processor was in 1976 8085, which was also an 8-bit with 16-bit address bus with 80 new instructions. So the newer technology began and processor grows in as 16-bit processor, 32-bit processor, and now we have a 60-bit processors like Intel's Core i3 or i5 or i7. Then the microprocessor was considered as a general purpose processor which was used in embedded system for a general purpose. But when we go for a domain specific processor, we used to have a microcontroller. So how it was built? It is a highly integrated and independent chip. The microcontroller is an independent chip that contains all the necessary units in a single chip. So like ALU, timers, interrupts, RAM, ROM, and IO ports, all these units are built in a single chip and called as a microcontroller. So these are used in application specific or domain specific areas as the size of hardware is very much reduced, and it was simpler than the microprocessors. So first, the Texas Instruments TMS 1000 may considered as first microcontroller in 1974. But because of its functionality, it may or it may not considered as a microcontroller. Then the Intel entered into a microcontroller market in 1977. So in the family of MCS 48 family, the family of 8038 microcontroller, 8039, 8040, 8048, 49, 5051. So out of all these, the Intel's 8048 and 8051 is very much popular with, why? Because these controllers are 8-bit controllers, 8-bit wide. Then if you go for the difference between the processor and the controller that the embedded system is going to use, so here the processor is built around a number of units, whereas in the figure in the first row, the figure, we can see that the processor is built up with many number of units. The microprocessor is outside and other units are connected to microprocessor through a system bus, whereas in a microcontroller all the units are inbuilt in as a single module. The microprocessor is heart of computer system, whereas a microcontroller is the heart of embedded system. The processor is just a processor with a memory, and input output components have to be connected externally. But in a microcontroller, the memory and IO components are connected internally. The microprocessor circuit becomes large and complex because of external connectivity. But in microcontroller, the circuit becomes very smaller. The processor cannot be used in compact systems and hence inefficient, whereas a microcontroller is compact system, can be used in anywhere and is a efficient technology. The cost of microprocessor is increases, whereas the cost of entire system in used by microcontroller is reduces. The power consumption is very high in microprocessor and very less in microcontroller. The processor is not having a power saving features, whereas a controller is having a power saving features, power consumption. Since in the processor Memory and IO are externally connected. The each instruction will need external operation. Therefore, processor is relatively slower. As the instruction are stored in a single on the same chip in a microcontroller, the processing speed is faster than the microprocessor. So the number of registers are less in processor and the number of registers are in more in microcontrollers. So it is basically the microprocessors are used in a personal computer, and the microcontroller are used in like washing machines or MP3 players or any embedded systems any embedded systems. So here we'll discuss on digital signal processors. How a digital signal processor can be a core for an embedded system. DSPs are powerful special purpose 8-bit or 16-bit or 32-bit microprocessor. So it was designed specifically to meet the computational demands and power constraints of today's embedded audio, video, and communication applications. So DSPs are 2 to 3 times faster than the general purpose microprocessors in signal processing applications. So in the below we can see in the figure that the concept of a DSP that incorporates below key units. First, the memory. So the memory is divided into two, the program memory and a data memory. A program memory for storing a program required by the DSP to process the data, and a data memory, working memory for storing temporary variables, information, and the data or signal to be processed. And then we'll move on to the block computational engine, where this performs a signal math processing. So accessing the program from the program memory and the data from the data memory, it goes for a computational process. Input output unit. So here it acts as an interface between the outside world and the DSP. So it is responsible for capturing signals to be processed and delivering the processed signals outside. In the right side top, you can see an application of embedded system. So analog signal is being captured or recorded, and then by using a ADC unit, analog to digital converter, the analog signal, audio signal, is converted into digital. It is given to a DSP for processing purpose, and it is being stored into a memory, and that stored memory is processed by a DSP, and through a DAC, digital to analog converter, the analog signal is put outside. RISC and CISC processor. RISC, basically the microcontrollers are based upon RISC and microprocessors are based upon CISC. So let us see the difference between these. RISC has a lesser number of instructions, a reduced instruction set computer. CISC is a complex instruction set computer, where RISC is having less number of instructions and CISC is having greater number of or large number of instruction sets. Instruction pipelining and increased execution speed is involved in RISC, whereas generally there is no pipelining feature in CISC. RISC has orthogonal instruction set. CISC has no orthogonal instruction set. That is, orthogonal is nothing but when one function is applied on one register, it is applied for all the registers. The same rules are applied for all the registers, but not in the CISC. In the RISC, the operations are performed on registers only. and only memory operations are load and store instructions, whereas the operations are performed on registers or memory depending upon the instruction in the CISC processor. A large number of registers are available in RISC and a limited number of registers in the CISC. The programmer needs to write more code to execute a task since the instructions are simpler ones. But in CISC, instructions are like macros in C language. A programmer can achieve the desired functionality with a single instruction, which in turn provides an effective of using more simpler single instructions in RISC. So in RISC, a single and fixed length of instructions are there. That is, one instruction is with the fixed length. In CISC, the instruction length is variable. In RISC, the pin count is less as less silicon usage, but in CISC, the pin count is more and complex instruction decoding. The RISC follows the Harvard architecture, whereas a CISC can be a Harvard or von Neumann architecture. Little Endian and Big Endian. So here the processors are having two types of data accessing orders. Data accessing orders called as endianness. So they are Little Endian and Big Endian. These are the two types. The endian specifies the order in which sequence of bytes stored in a computer memory. That is, what is the order of one data which has to be stored on a computer memory. Let us go on through one. A little endian. Here, a lower byte of data is stored in lower address of memory and higher byte of data stored in a higher address memory. So for an example, take one memory location 1000H, move the 32-bit word 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, store on 1000H. So as it is a 4 byte 32 bits 4 byte data, each data is going to be single byte of data is going to be stored onto the 1000H, 1001H, 1002H, 1003H. So in the output, that in the table it is been shown that in 1000 the lower byte of data 78 will be stored. Then increase the memory and increase the order of byte 56. Second upper byte is 56. Then in 1001 56 will be stored. In 1002 34 will be stored, and in 1003 the higher byte 12 will be stored. That is, the lower byte 78, the lower address 1000, the higher byte 12, the higher address 1003. So this is a little endian. In the big endian, it is opposite to the little endian. That is, a lower byte of data is stored in a higher address of memory, and a higher byte of data is stored in a lower address of memory. That is, for the same example, look at the table. The higher byte, the lower byte is stored in higher address 1003H, and the higher byte 12H is stored in lower address 1000H, and higher, that is, in the lower byte of data 78 is stored in higher address 1003, and higher byte of data 12H is stored into a lower address of memory 1000H. Load and store architecture. So basically the RISC based processor or controllers are having this load and store architecture. So how it is going to work? So basically every operation is going through a registers only. Taking the data from the memory to process, it should be loaded into a registers, and writing the data into the memory, that is also through a registers only. So here from the memory 00, 1F and 23, X, Y, Z, three locations are there. From the X location, the data is stored into R1. From the Y location, the data is stored into R2. Then the ALU is performing the addition operation on R1 and R2. And then the ALU is writing the data, the result, into the register R3. Along with this, the ALU is generating the address where the result has to be written, that is Z location. So the fourth instruction, store R3, Z, that is R3 is going to write the data, the result specified by the ALU in the Z location. So this is a load and store architecture. Von Neumann and Harvard architecture. So here basically the von Neumann is it is a theoretically based designed based on the store program computer concepts, whereas the Harvard architecture, computer architecture based upon a personal computer based upon a Harvard Mark or relay based upon computer models. So the von Neumann is having uses a same physical memory address for instruction as well as data. The von Neumann uses the same physical path or physical memory address for both instruction as well as data, to access the instruction as well as the data. Whereas in a Harvard architecture, it uses a separate memory address for instructions and data. So instruction is fetched separately and the data is fetched separately. The von Neumann architecture, as it uses a single or a same physical memory address, that is only one path for instruction and data, the processor needs 2 clock cycles to execute one instruction. That is, one time it has to fetch the instruction and another time it has to fetch the data. Whereas in a Harvard based architecture, the processor needs only one cycle to execute one instruction, because that instruction gets data as well as instruction in the same physical address. The von Neumann is simpler control unit design, and development of one is cheaper and faster. The von Neumann is, to develop von Neumann architecture, it is simpler and faster. Whereas a Harvard architecture, as it uses 2 buses, so it's more complicated, which adds to the development cost. The data transfers and instruction fetches cannot be performed simultaneously, and that is obviously the data transfer and instruction fetches can be performed at the same time in the Harvard architecture. So this von Neumann architecture is basically used in personal computers, laptops and workstations, whereas Harvard architecture based processors used in microcontrollers and signal processings. So the second main point was an application specific integrated circuits. These are also used as a core of an embedded system. So ASIC is a customized microchip designed for a particular use rather than intended for general purpose use. So for example, a chip designed to run in a digital voice recorder. So that is, in a digital voice recorder, there will be a chip that is designed only for specific reason, intended for It is not intended for a general purpose. It integrates, the ASIC integrates several functions into a single chip and reduces the system development cost. But the fabrication of ASIC requires a non-refundable investment cost that is called as NRE cost, non-recurring engineering cost or charge. So for an example, the ADE 7760 energy meter ASIC developed by Analog Devices for energy metering applications. So ASICs are made only for specific reasons, but cost is also more for this investment cost. Next we'll go for PLDs, programmable logic devices. So logic devices, in every system the logic devices are needed. The logic devices perform a specific functions and used in any of the system. These devices are classified into fixed and programmable. That is, fixed logic devices are there and programmable logic devices are there. So the fixed logic devices are permanent and they cannot be changed. The programmable logic devices can be reconfigured in the matter of speed or in the capacity or in the voltage characteristics. So programmable logic devices are used in routers, DSL modems or DVD players, navigation systems and etc. So there are basically two types, PLDs, CPLD and FPGA. CPLD is complex programming logic devices and field programmable gate array. The fourth main point was commercial off the shelf components, COTS. So basically these components, this is a product which is used as it is. So we cannot change it, as whatever it is required, it is there, we can use that product. It is designed for ease of integration and interoperability with existing system components. That is, if you have one system, then we can use these components for integration and interoperability. So for an examples, remote controlled toy car control units. So it is fixed. We cannot change the toy car operations. Any remote can be used. Even for a TV, if a remote is been, there are several remotes that are used to operate any of the TV. Analog to digital converters. So these are also fixed. The ADCs, there are 8-bit, there are 16-bit, there are 32-bit or 20-bit, 10-bit ADCs are there. So simply when we require ADC, we don't have to design the ADC. Instead, we can just buy or take it from the vendors. Analog to digital converters or any of the examples. Like electro-optic digital imaging arrays or UV/IR detectors or TCP/IP plugin modules. That is, it is nothing but an RJ45 connector. So where it is a standard one and used in everywhere in any of the system. So there is no need to design all these modules, as they can directly be used in a system for connectivity. So these components are called as commercial off the shelf components, COTS. So this is up to this. We will go for newer topics in next videos. Thank you.